After the success of Lee Whannell's Invisible Man showed that classic Universal horror movie remakes can work, as long as you change every single detail about the movie except the title, of course, Universal instantly gave Lee Whannell another movie to remake in the hopes of replicating the Invisible Man's success. In case you don't know, Wolfman stars Christopher Abbot as a stay-at-home dad who, after his estranged father is declared legally dead after being missing for several years, decides to take a trip to his father's property in the middle of nowhere with his wife, played by Julia Garner, and his daughter, played by some child actress. While on the way there, the family gets into a car accident and Christopher Abbot is injured by a werewolf and begins his transformation into a primal beast. I thought this movie mostly ranged from okay to mediocre at any given moment, with little spots of brilliance shining through that unfortunately only make up a small part of the film. Since this movie takes place almost entirely in one location and has essentially only 3 characters, it lives or dies based on the performances. Christopher Abbot, who I had never seen before, is giving an amazing performance. He does a great job with both the emotional and physical sides of the role. He plays the character of the dad pre-transformation very well, and when he starts to transform and loses humanity, the sadness in his performance draws a lot of empathy. He really makes you feel like you are watching a loved one slowly be overcome by illness. And like I said before, he does a great job with the physicality of the role as well. His transformations feel painful. The way his movement changes as the film progresses show how much his body and mind are changing. And when he needs to be completely animalistic, you buy him completely as a creature rather than a guy with a bunch of makeup on. I do not have the same praise for Julia Garner's performance. Much like Christopher Abbot, I was not familiar with Julia Garner before this film. I know she is in Ozark and will be playing the Silver Surfer in the new Fantastic Four movie, but have never actually seen her in anything. Her performance in the movie ranges from okay to weak, but it's 100% the way that the film is written and directed. Julia Garner doesn't have much to do acting-wise for a lot of the movie. Before they arrive to the cabin, she doesn't have much personality aside from being more uptight, career-minded, and less close with their daughter than Christopher Abbot is. Once they do get to the cabinet, she sort of just sits in the corner while Christopher Abbot is transforming and makes scared faces in his direction. And I do mean in his direction, as several of the transformation reaction shots look like they were shot separately, as Julia Garner is not on screen at the same time as Christopher Abbot and seems to be confused as to what she is supposed to be reacting to. I don't know if this is actually the case, but it certainly seems like 2 separate clips edited together at several points in the movie. As the film progresses, she gets more to do in the sense that there are more literal tasks for a character to run around and do, but not really acting wise. Once again, she just acts sad and horrified in response to her husband wolfing out. When they do have actual dialogue between Christopher Abbot and Julia Garner, I do think it's pretty sad and effective, but it doesn't happen enough. The majority of the issues in this movie come down to the writing. The film does not have enough content to justify its length. It would have worked better as a 60-minute short film or episode of an anthology. As it is, it feels like 60 minutes of content stretched out to almost 2 hours. This extends to the writing of the main characters as well, who have no depth whatsoever. Christopher Abbot is a 100% perfect dad with no flaws, aside from getting angry at his daughter once early in the movie. Our main couple is supposed to be having relationship issues, but they barely argue and never have any big fights. Giving more personality and flaws to our main characters would have led to the movie feeling less thin on content if executed right. Christopher Abbot having personality flaws, maybe former anger issues that still come out every once in a while, would have also given the film more thematic depth. The werewolf could represent his negative traits coming out, and there is a little, and I mean a little, hint of being a werewolf maybe being a metaphor for trauma/abuse in this movie, but it's such a small detail that it's less a plot thread and more like a tiny piece of string stuck to a shirt. This movie has really bad dubbing and audio mixing. In the beginning, when they are in the city, the ambient noise track sounds terrible. It doesn't seem to fit what's going on in the city around them and sounds less like actual ambient noise and more like someone listening to ambient noise in their headphones. And the dubbing is terrible. Not only is it obviously recorded in a different environment than the other dialogue, sometimes the mouths of the actors who are supposed to be talking don't even move. In addition to the bad dubbing, I also thought the scenes that took place in the dark looked bad, which is a lot of the scenes in the movie. The director is clearly attempting to make it so you deliberately can't see anything and are suspicious of every shadow, but it comes off like he just forgot to light the set. Something this movie deserves extreme praise for is the practical effects. The movie's full of practical effects and they look amazing. There's a lot of gross body horror transformation scenes that look great. The monster effects are all practical and look great, even though I don't like the design of the werewolf and don't think it looks wolfy enough. You believe the werewolves as creatures rather than guys in makeup. I also love seeing the different stages of Christopher Abbot's sickness / transformation evolve. Even though the middle stages of his evolution look a little bit Geico caveman to me, he looks grosser and grosser and more beast-like as it goes along, and like I said, the effects look great. The slow progression of our protagonist becoming more and more sick and less human in a gross body horror way reminds me a lot of David Cronenberg's The Fly. Speaking of body horror, how are the horror aspects of this film? Well, like everything in the movie, it's kind of spotty. There's some legitimately creepy scenes that stand out, but the film lacks the constant tension and sense of danger a horror movie needs to be consistently scary throughout. The movie is more about the dread of watching someone you love succumb to a disease and change into a different person, and ironically, I thought the creepiest scene in the movie involved only humans, because I just thought it was so tense and I had no idea what the guy was gonna do. Anyway, that's Wolfman. As I said before, it's a mostly okay movie with some great aspects like a few really good sequences, amazing practical effects, and a superb Christopher Abbot performance. I would recommend this movie if it sounds interesting to you or if you are a fan of practical effects, but if you're on the fence, I would definitely skip it. So that's my review of Wolfman. What's your favorite classic monster? You know, Dracula, werewolf, Frankenstein, etc. Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this video, check out my video on Nosferatu to hear me talk about another recent remake of an old-ass horror movie. Thanks for watching, bye bye!